We love our pets here on CityCast Boise, and we all want to give them the care they deserve, including our aquatic friends, which is why we're excited to talk about Fly-In Vet. Fly-In Vet makes house calls and can help with any fish health or water issue. You'll get excellent care for your pets from Dr. Becker, a board-certified aquatic veterinarian. Make an appointment today. Call 208-260-0327 or go to flyinvet.com. That's flyinvet.com.
Today on CityCast Boise. For years, West Boise residents have asked for something many other neighborhoods take for granted, a library of their own. Now residents are organizing to make it happen. We're looking at the price tag, the politics, and the pressure the group is ready to apply if the answer is no. It's Tuesday, September 16th. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. Joining me is Mark Salisbury, a resident who started Citizens for a Library, a group pushing for a library branch in West Boise. Thanks for joining me, Mark.
Hey, thank you, Lindsay. It's great to be with you today and to be able to tell this story.
First off, let's get listeners oriented because there's a lot of area that can be identified as West Boise. So what neighborhoods or landmarks are you talking about specifically?
Oh, yeah, that's great because, at first we kind of said Northwest Boise, and then there was confusion because that's more north of Garden City. We're talking about the part of Boise that's really west of 5 Mile and going to Eagle Road and beyond. People don't even know that Boise goes west of Eagle Road, but it does at Chinden.
And what's the closest library to your house? And how long does it take you to get there on, a normal day?
That's a great question because we're actually in the middle of about 5 libraries. We might go to Orchard Park Library in Meridian, at Linder and Chinden. We might go to the Eagle Library. The closest Boise library is Cole and Ustick, which is exactly 5 miles. And, while going that direction, traffic's not as bad as, say, driving straight down Eagle Road. It will take, fastest is 12 minutes. It can take 20 minutes to get there.
And you've been pushing for a West Boise library since 2022, right?
Yeah. This is something that I noticed when I moved to this area is that we don't have a library close by. And then library branches were added across the city. So I moved to West Boise in 2002. So I've been here just over 23 years. When the city of Boise was divided into city council districts, that got me thinking, maybe there's a chance to work with our city council representative. When Lucy Willits was elected in late 2021, I reached out to her immediately. And she was immediately aware of the issue, understood it, wanted to work to address this issue as well.
And what really flipped the switch for you from concerned resident who's having to drive 12 to 20 minutes to the library to somebody who's forming a group to really push for a library in your neighborhood?
I went to a few city meetings, as Lucy had suggested, in 2022. And then in early 2023, it was almost kind of honestly, like a New Year's resolution. Am I serious about this? Am I going to try to do whatever it takes to make this happen? And I decided, yeah, I should make this a serious effort because things don't happen unless people are willing to step up and work on it.
And you made a map to show where library gaps are in Boise. Can you walk us through your process and what it revealed?
Yes. When you think about how services are placed, fire stations, police stations, libraries, parks, you kind of think about how close people are to those services, right? You think about, I'm going to generally go to the closest service to where I live. It's something I want to do often, and it should be quick and efficient. And when I looked at where libraries were in the city, I drew a 2-mile radius around each one. And the reason that I went with that distance was a couple of reasons. One is that that's the distance that's, possible to walk, pretty comfortable to bike, but also it starts to show overlap between some of the branches in the city. In fact, it covers Boise pretty well at that radius.
Yeah, when I looked at the map, there were discrepancies where certain parts of the city had lots of overlap, 3 or 4 different branches, and other parts of the city, no overlap, or like in West Boise's case, they weren't part of any circle at all. What's been the reaction from your neighbors when you've brought this concept up or when they've seen you pushing for a neighborhood library?
The map is really key in telling this story. In 2023, we decided to create a petition to take this to city council. And when, some people were like, well, I can go to that library and it's not a big deal. Other people kind of knew that we were further away, but when they saw the map, it really crystallized. It's like, wow, we're kind of in this area that's just missing a library when you look at where the other libraries are. And, if you look at the website that I created, citizensforalibrary.org, that map is right there.
This fall, treat yourself to a trip to wine country in the heart of the Pacific Northwest. The Walla Walla Valley is home to more than 130 wineries, offering vineyard experiences and delicious wine tastings. Bonus, grape harvest is happening soon. Besides incredible wines, Walla Walla has a walkable, historic downtown core to explore. There's plenty of farm-fresh dining options from celebrated chefs to treat yourself to. Go at your own pace around town, do as much or as little as you want. And here's a thought, September is a beautiful time to take a scenic road trip to Walla Walla, just 4 hours away from Boise. Go to wallawalla.org to plan your visit today. That's wallawalla.org.
Mark, how has a lack of library in your neighborhood and in that kind of like 2-mile radius area affected your family?
Well, we don't go to the library as much as we would like to, and that is definitely an issue due to distance. So I think if we had a library in West Boise, for individuals that already use the library, it's going to make their day getting that library just much better. Having it closer by, that would allow us to also tell our kids that we're comfortable with them going there on their own. You can ride your bike to get there. You could walk to get there. The other piece about this, everyone who owns property pays property tax. And I would argue that even the people that are renting, they're paying property tax too indirectly. In Boise, the median assessed home value is $459,000 for this year. In West Boise, we don't get a discount on property taxes because libraries are far away for us. So this is really, it's simple. We deserve to have a branch in our neighborhood as well.
West Boise is a pretty large area. And even with your map, there is a huge segment that isn't really covered by other library branches. And it's not the most walkable neighborhood in Boise by far. So if a new library was built, there's a pretty good chance it wouldn't be significantly more accessible to certain families depending on where it's located. If people are likely going to have to drive to the library anyways, does it matter if it's located right in their neighborhood?
I think that it does. I think that cutting that travel time down helps a lot. We can get to a grocery store. We can get to all schools. We can get there in a couple of minutes. And I think for the people that do live right within that mile radius, and you would still have a lot of people there, it would really help to be able to just walk there directly, bike there directly.
Another thing that, I've heard this in Meridian when we've talked about, building library expansions and new libraries. And I think it is coming up more and more is this idea of, well, you can just get the Libby app and then you have on your phone or device access to any library book. You don't even have to leave your home, or you can just use electronic materials from the library. Does a physical library branch matter that much in 2025?
Lindsay, that's a great question because everything you said is true. I have the Libby app on my phone and I do use it. Let me answer this with somebody who has a background in technology and generally loves it. I taught myself programming actually from a library book written in the 60s when I was in 8th grade. We didn't have the internet quite yet then. I graduated with a degree in computer science. I'm in the middle of making software for my company, heavily using AI in the process right now. But I have to say that technology isn't all it's cracked up to be. Physical libraries, they provide books, but they do so much more. What if you want to bring your kids to a place where they have story time with another person who's really good at reading? You can do that at a library. Sometimes it's not about the books at the library. For the young ones, libraries have a program called Music and Movement where kids move around with music. Or maybe you're an immigrant family and English is difficult. Libraries offer assistance learning English. Or maybe you need help with taxes or legal advice. I've seen all of these things at Boise libraries. Libraries provide an additional way we can have quality time with their families. We can go there together. We can find books and movies together. We can talk about a book we read when we were younger and share it with our kids. That doesn't happen when you're browsing online. Sometimes the local library is a useful place to meet. As I've become more engaged with the community through the process that I've been in here, I've attended numerous meetings at libraries. You can reserve a room, there's no questions asked. Libraries have technology. When visiting family out of state, either because there wasn't good Wi Fi at home or I just needed that distraction and free environment, I've worked remotely from a library, and that's been so helpful to me. I think really something that's amazing about libraries that we just don't think about because it just seems obvious is librarians themselves. I've had wonderful interactions with librarians, helping find books, understanding how to use the facilities. Generally, they're just great people. Ultimately, I think this is about pushing back a bit in the direction that society's going, where we do everything with devices, using AI or watching unending videos that drain our brains on social media. If we get better at living in the physical world by interacting with people directly, meeting our neighbors, and yes, going to the library, I think it's going to create a better city, a better society.
Now, Mark, you've studied past facilities plans. You've met with the library director, the mayor, city council members to discuss your idea. What have you learned about how this process works or how these decisions are made?
It's a much more involved process than I would have guessed. I thought this was going to be kind of a simple thing of meet with my city council representative, talk about the problem, and then we just kind of get this on the plan and it happens. But the library doesn't go out and think about new facility plans very frequently. The last time they did this was 25 years ago, and they hired an outside agency to help collect data, help put community engagement surveys together. The process really starts with the library staff, but it's up to the city council to approve it and move forward with whatever plan is decided on.
And the library director, Jessica Dorr, told KTVB that she wishes every single neighborhood in Boise could have its own library, but that's not feasible with their current budget. How do you respond to that?
That's a great question because I was kind of surprised to hear her say that. But, to my knowledge, there are no other neighborhoods in Boise asking for another library branch. There might be a few individuals who have indicated on a survey they'd like a library closer, but I'm just not aware of another group of citizens working together to request that we have a library branch added. And the other thing that kind of surprised me about Director Dorr saying that is that I feel like it's the library's job, library staff's job to figure out what is going to make the most difference for our city and then ask for funding for that. And I feel like looking at the part of Boise that doesn't have a library branch, it's kind of like a no-brainer for the facilities plan. Like if we're going to improve our libraries and we say that our goal is to provide access to everyone and Boise is a city for everyone, why isn't the first thing on the list to have a branch where we don't have one today?
Director Dorr said that expanding current branches would be a more cost-effective way to increase access than building new library branches. Is that potentially a compromise that you feel would help West Boise?
That's a good question. There was actually a library board of trustees meeting, and they went through cost projections on expanding existing facilities and on building new facilities. They were saying to expand an existing space to the size that Group 4 recommended, which is the contractor that Boise's hired to help with this plan. The cost is in like $21 million to expand the existing facility, and to build a new facility dedicated would be $31 million. I think that's a lot better approach to go with. If you're going to spend that much and just have leased space, why don't you build a new facility which stands out to citizens more when the cost is so high? Anyway, to use leased space, why don't we just do a dedicated building and stop paying rent?
Yeah, it does seem like those costs are more similar than I thought they would be. I kind of thought a new facility would be significantly more expensive.
Exactly. And we've kind of painted ourselves in a corner a little bit. When the main library was going to be replaced completely, when that was on the books as a plan, Mayor Beater and others in the city, were pushing for, it was in the neighborhood of $80 million, right? And then the cost went up to $100 million. And then there was cost estimates that were going even higher. And a lot of people in Boise were concerned about that. And I was concerned about that. And part of that was because, we're building a really nice library that's really far away from where I live. I would like to see a branch library closer to where I live first. But when that was being talked about, there was a group that put forth a ballot initiative that required that citizens approve any major library project. And a major library project was defined as a library project that cost $25 million or more. What wasn't known at that time was how much costs were going to escalate, how much we were going to see inflation happening in the short term, right? That happened in 2021, 2022. I looked at the construction cost indexes to kind of actually look at these estimates that we're seeing to see are these realistic estimates. But the construction costs have gone up a lot. I often refer to the latest library that Boise built, the Bound Crossing Library. The cost for that was $8.6 million, but that was just 2015, 2017. It was built in that time frame. And to think that libraries now cost 4 times that to build is a little bit of a puzzler to me, right? Now, part of that is they're talking about building 30,000 square foot libraries instead of 16,000 square foot libraries. Bound Crossing is 16,000 square feet. But still, I kind of question if costs have gone up quite that much. With as high as the costs are, maybe brute force proposal that we build libraries that are that big, maybe we should take a step back from that, design a library that's the size of the existing branch libraries that are standalone, and think of a design that could allow that to be expanded in the future.
So maybe not 25,000 or 30,000 square feet, maybe something significantly smaller, but closer to people. Is that something that your group would be willing to consider or would advocate for?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, if they were told, you could have a 15,000 square foot library or no library, they would definitely say, we would like a 15,000 square foot library.
Now, the library board is going to review the firm's recommendations at a meeting in September before discussing the facilities plan with the Boise City Council in October. What's at stake for you if a West Boise library branch isn't part of the plan?
We're not sure that if it's not made part of the plan that we're going to see anything happen in this generation, right? Which is why I reached out and others reached out to citizens in West Boise to let the Board of Trustees know our thoughts. And we were thrilled that we added over 40 pages to the meeting agenda of people sending in their concerns about this plan. A lot of people, I think, would be really disappointed to hear that this is not in the plan, and instead Boise is going to upgrade to existing library branches.
And if you are left out of the plan, what's the next move for your group?
Well, if we say that even City Council approves the plan as it is right now, and ultimately we do have a levy that says we want to raise money for these libraries, I think that I and other people in West Boise in particular, we wouldn't be in favor of that. We would be like, we've made our voices heard for several years, and to hear all this feedback ignored, I don't think we would be on board with spending more money that doesn't include West Boise.
It sounds like withholding support from a levy is maybe one of the only political levers that you feel like you would have left. Do you worry that taking that stand could overall hurt the city's library system, further reducing your family's access?
That's something I've been thinking about because I do support libraries. If that were not to pass, I would hope that would be a short-term situation and then the city goes back and they say, okay, now we want to put a plan forward that is in sync with what people overall in the city want. And that's kind of what happened in 2018 and 2019, right? Is there was the major downtown library project that wasn't in sync with what people wanted in the city. And it has affected things today, like you said. Like we now have a different code in Boise than other cities for library projects. It's taken a few years to even talk about any new facility plans.
Mark, you've talked to city leaders, you've talked to library board trustees. If you could make a pitch, though, to the entire city for a West Boise library branch, what would you say?
That's actually not really a hard question because I do talk with people when we're out. We've been out at like U Stick and Bloom, and people come from all over the city. People that support learning and education and literacy, they are in support of a library in West Boise, and it doesn't matter if they are citizens in West Boise or not. They kind of see the distribution of libraries and they jump on board immediately. So I think it's not a hard question if you are a library supporter to want to see that kind of access shared equally across the city.
Well, Mark, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to break this all down and share your expertise with us.
Thank you, Lindsay. I enjoyed talking with you today.
That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. If you enjoyed the show, that's a great reason to become a CityCast Boise neighbor, like our newest neighbor, Ashley Z. Welcome to the neighborhood. You can join Ashley at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with another great local story. Catch you then.